First of all, welcome everyone to the workshop Build It Better with Remix. Um, First of all, my introduction. Um, I'm Arnav and I'm the ACM webmaster, and I've been working on websites, full stack applications since my um, third sem, you can say, or you can say second sem. It all started with a PESUECC course which I did on full stack web. So yeah, since then I've been working on full stack applications and about Remix. So Remix is a very latest framework which has come up, and I've been working with Remix since my last year, I guess. Yeah, hop on to what is Remix first. First of all, have you ever heard of Remix? I'm sure you would have heard of React or maybe Next also nowadays, but Remix is a very new platform for all the web developers because it has come out recently and it is I actually love it. Like, I would prefer Remix over everything else. And so for what is RemixJS? So it is a full stack web framework that lets you focus on user interface, and basically it helps you deliver fast and resilient user experience and also a very clean way of writing your code and managing it. So it's again a React framework, and it's used for server side rendering, which will go on to the next slide. So this means that both front end and the back end can be made using a single remix app. But I would generally not prefer it. But Remix definitely has been moving towards it. So data is being rendered always on the server side on the remix and sent to the client side. So you'll have two separate components in Remix. Yeah, so we'll go on to that also. What is server side rendering? So the basics of server side rendering is that rendering on the server, of course. But when you do this, you'll create an HTML file with the whole content of the website that will be separate with the HTML building blocks. Then the content which will be loaded in the server side of the page will be sent to those HTML blocks, and then the whole HTML page with those contents will be sent out to be rendered. So this means that users whoever visit the site will be able to see everything much faster rather than just looking at a blank screen and waiting for JavaScript files to load. So when this server-side rendering is used very well, it is very well to use product development apps, like apps which are actually used as products, and it enables you to render content very fast, and the whole content is sent to the client as a whole without any high page load time or anything else. So this is the whole point of server-side rendering. Um, and also Remix framework is a server-side rendering framework. So not doing much about theory on Remix. We'll get on to coding and how we're going to create Remix app. Yeah, so we'll hop on. So right now I have a folder structure with just hop onto any folder. I've named it Remix Workshop, and you can type npx create remix @create. It will take some time to test it out. So the we'll wait. So this npx library is basically a prerequisite we should have. It comes from NodeJS. It should be installed. Hello, can you hear me? Is it clear now? Yeah. Yep, can I continue? Yeah, so uh, moving on. So once you do create remix, it will send you a message that where you would like to create your app and what we will name it. So I'll just name it a remix workshop. We don't want any pre-configured, in just basics. We want a remix app server and JavaScript, and we want to learn an npm install for installing all the libraries required. It will take a little time. So meanwhile, I'll just show you how the backend code is structured for this thing. As you have already seen the workshop which happened yesterday with taken by Tiwari and Samad, that how to deal with HTTP requests and API requests. I've just made the same but in a different language. I have used Python FastAPI for the same. Will not go into it deep, but it's important that because we are using these APIs in our front end for getting and posting data. So yep, this is basically MongoDB database which I'm connecting to through PyMongo. The database name I've named RemixDB, and the input I'm taking is just a name and a about remix, and these are the two requests I've made to get the data from the DB and to submit responses. So basically, this is the insert one function to add response to Mongo, and changing the response which comes as a string to a dictionary so that it passes on as an object. And to get the responses, I'm just getting all the responses at once from the MongoDB. Then I'm just changing the ID because an ID in MongoDB is an object ID, and I'm just appending to a list and returning a list. So basically, I will not go deep into it, but I would like you to refer to the video lecture which happened, the workshop which happened yesterday, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I don't remember much, but about APIs and HTTP requests, you'll be able to understand this more once you look at that also. So yeah, these requests we are going to use in our app today, and we'll see how to integrate both backend and frontend. Let's go back to the remix. Yep. So we have a remix created. Remix. So I'll go to that folder. Uh, Yep. And I'll open VS Code. So I always prefer VS Code for web dev because it provides a lot of features, as I'll show you once. So this is a normal page. If you hover over any links over here, you can one second. Where to look. Yep. So yeah, you can see it tells about all the elements, predefined elements which have been, which is like a React library or something, that what it takes as input, what it gives output, and also about certain elements, what are the params, what are stuff. So VS Code is a very nice feature when it comes to web dev, and I'm pretty sure many web developers use it, many or most of them. So yeah, so before talking about VS Code, let's go about the app structure of Remix. So we can see for running the app, we run the command called npm rundev to load the app. It will first create a build file to refer to the all the cache values that was there in previously in the site. Then, so first, this is the root page. So what does root.jsx do is every page you go, this is the whole structure of the whole page of every remix page. So first it loads the meta, this is the titles and logos, then at the top of the page, then we'll actually run the app. You can see that remix server has started at localhost 3000. So we just going towards that link. While it loads, we'll get back to this. So this meta over here defines the top of the any page. Like you can see this. Yeah, so this is our Remix app as of now. The logo and the title is defined in the meta section. Then the outlet is actually the whole page that has been rendered. The this part of the page. Then the scroll restoration is just the emulate browser scroll restoration. Scripts are the JavaScript scripts that are loaded on the page. And live reload is a live reload feature of Remix. Whenever you change anything in the app, it gets auto reloaded. So this basically gets rendered in all the route of an application wherever you go. So anything which you want to be displayed in all the pages should be put over here. So now there's a folder called routes over here. So this folder basically underscore index.js. So index always means an empty plus over here. Like you give a slash, it goes to index. So whatever whatever route you want to create, suppose I want to add something called as a survey.jsx and just have a default function exported here named survey and just return a simple h1 tag. And once we reload the app, just to be safe that the route gets loaded once you reload the app, you go to slash survey. You can see this page. So basically, whatever route you want to put, you can easily have the route separately. So basically, for each route, you can have pages separately, and each pages you can have multiple functions to deal with all the functionality for that page. So suppose I want to just render in HTML tags, you can have it all inside return function. You want to have uh, server side loading, you can have in the same route page itself. So it gives you a lot of structure to the code for each page, each route, so that you can write much cleaner code. So hopping on to what we are going to create today is a simple survey app with form submission and loading. Um, so we don't need any of this. We'll delete all of this and we'll start from scratch. So we'll add a main tag with an ID is equal to main. So this main is an HTML tag to define that whatever elements inside this tag is a unique element. We use ID so that this whole tag, whatever is inside this tag, can be referred to somewhere else using an ID. That it's just a name given to this tag. Uh, so we are basically going to use this to add styling to this whole app. So main is a very undefined thing. So we'll have a content. We'll have an h1 tag which says, let me know how much you like Remix. And we'll have one p tag. You can let us know if Remix is cool by clicking the link. I just save it and you can see it auto loads everything. Uh, Once we go to the main page, you can see it got rendered. So basically h1 is a header tag. It gets the heading of the page. This is a paragraph tag, but we need to add a link over here so that we go to the next page when we click the link below. So to add that link, we can have a inbuilt. First, we'll have a p tag to add a link. Then we have a link to is equal to survey. and we'll name it right now. Also, this is giving an error because, as I told you, everything inside a main tag has to be unique, and whatever is basically inside this return function should be inside a single tag. So basically, if I put this and then put this outside, it will work. Yep, see. So that's the whole point, but we don't need that as of now. It's giving an error. I have not imported link library. Import link from Remix and React, and then we are good to go. So you can have a link over here, which will go to the slash survey. This is how you can link multiple pages together. Link to as an internal uh, built-in feature of Remix to navigate between routes, basically. So anything you give a slash, this will go to the route inside the basically go to the file inside this routes folder, and will render all the components inside this file. Is a simple H1 tag. So moving forward, I this is not required. I kind of don't like this page so plain, right? Like it doesn't look attractive to me at all. So let's try adding some design to it, some styling to it. Uh, so to add any styling to it, we'll export a function called of links to refer to the uh, CSS file we're going to create, and this is how we're going to return. The relation is to a style sheet, and href is basically home styles. Right? We need to have a new folder here called styles where we'll store all our CSS for the web app, and we'll add a home.css to it, and then we can import that into styles into home styles from styles dash home.css. Okay, so this tilde sign basically refers to it goes to this app folder inside that app folder. So we're going to go to styles, and then we're going to import this home.css. So we'll have this, we have an ID content over here and an ID CT over here, which we're going to use to style our application. So we're going to open this home.css. We're going to have a hashtag content. So this hashtag is used to refer the ID of that page, hashtag content, and I want to align text to center. It's easy, very easy, and add a color to the text, maybe hashtag E7. This works. You can see the color is not kind of cool, but it text aligned to the center. So I'm gonna change the color a little bit. Uh, E7C, the fee. I think this should work. Yeah, this kind of works, but we need to add a background to the page. So, but the issue is we want background to be there in every page now. So what we're gonna do is take help of something called as a root.jsx, where it gets rendered every time. So what we're gonna do is just add styling to this page. So it will make sure that every page gets this style. We're gonna import styles, and we're gonna create something called as a main.css, and then we're gonna import it here. Import styles from styles and main.css. So now we're gonna add styling to the whole page in main.css. So what we're gonna do is first make our whole page a border box. Basically, it adds a margin to the whole page from all the four sides. And we'll have a body. This body is basically whatever is inside these tags, whatever is inside the return. Everything is basically a body of the page. So we'll have a margin defined as 0 in the body. We'll have a font family of actually anything works, but this works. And we'll have a background colors, which basically is what we want. And we'll have it as maybe blue. So there's two ways to define either a hex or maybe an RGB, right? So that was hex which we defined in home.css. So basically, it's just used to refer colors. There's different formats of referring color. RGB means red, green, and blue. So we just give values to red, green, blue as randomly 62, and maybe 199. So, and we'll have a minimum height of the page to be 100 viewport height, which is basically the whole page. So now we can see this looks very clean with the background. You can easily see the text too. Still, this try now doesn't look correct. We can make it even better. So for that, we need to add CSS to our homepage. So our homepage is basically index, and it's inside hashtag CTA. So we'll put hashtag CTA, hashtag CTA, and we'll add actually an A tag inside CTA basically because link is an A tag specifically, but specifically comes as a package for Remix. So for an A tag, we'll have a text decoration as none because I don't want an underlying link over there. Like you can see an underlined link and you can see the color change also. So I don't want that. Then text decoration none. We'll have a background color to this also. Um, what should have something yellowish, which is FF 9273, and color will be text color will be black. Padding will be M basically means a relative padding to the whole components around it. I'll explain how this padding and margin is working. To maybe 4 pixels and font size is 1.5 rem. So you can see now I've changed the background color and the text color, so it's looking way cleaner. But how the padding and stuff is working is you can check it over here. It has a margin of 16 on top and bottom. Doesn't have a padding as of now. The link does have a padding on all the four sides. That's why the background color is applied on all the four sides of the link. And even this h1 tag has a margin on the top and doesn't have a border and padding. So you can look into margin, border, and padding here. Border is basically so this is the padding first for this link. This is the padding. And you can see a circular shape at the end. This is called border radius. So I have put border radius as 4px. So can't see, it's not visible. If I put 16px, it's kind of visible, right? So we'll keep it at maybe 8. So yep. So but still, this doesn't look that clean. We need to add some spacing above this. So I'll just put one hashtag CTA margin top as black. Yeah, this is clean. Okay. So you can see the background color being applied to all the pages now because it's been put in the root.jsx file. So now what we want is, suppose you need to have a navigation bar on the top because I don't want to click the button, I just want to navigate through the top. So what we can have is a navigation for all the pages basically, here and here. Because from here we can't go back to the older page. So we need some navigation so that we get back to the older page also. So again, if you want to add it to all the pages, you take help of root.jsx. But now it's not what do you say, recommended to put anything much inside root.jsx. So what we're going to do is make use of components. There's something called as a component feature in React also, if you might know. It's the same in Remix. We'll have a new file folder named component. We'll have a new file inside it called as main navigation.jsx. And we won't have much to it. We'll just add a export default function main navigation, and we'll just return some navlinks. I'm really sorry. Uh, Nav ID is equal to main navigation. This is the top navigation menu. Now we want inside this to be a bunch of navigating links. We can go to basically index and to the survey page. So we'll have a list of them. UL is the tag for an unordered list, and then li is each list element. So we'll have first navlink to navlink. Navlink is an again feature of Remix Run. We can import this package, and the whole feature of navlink is that suppose this link is active, suppose this route is active, it automatically highlights it. That's why we're using navlink over here. Navlink to star and to index page and name it as home. Okay, for a list, we'll have another list, and we'll have again navlink to slash survey survey. Okay. Oh, sorry, it's capital. Okay, so now we want this nav link to come up in root. So we'll just go and add it as a main navigation over here. You can see it has imported main navigation from component slash main navigation, and this whole feature is going to come now on the top of the page because I've imported on the top. I've called it on the top. So you can see this has come over here, but again the CSS issue. So we're going to add it to again we're gonna add some CSS to it, but this time it's gonna be just inside root.jsx because this whole component is being called inside root.jsx. So whatever CSS we have to pass should be mentioned inside the CSS of root itself. So we have some hashtags as main navigation here. We'll add one uh, ID or maybe a class name. You can use you can even mention it as class name. You can do it as so this is another feature to refer to any element inside HTML basically. So we can use this to again add CSS to it or even use this whole tag or whatever is inside this tag through this name. Then okay, class name is equal to nav. Right. Let's add some CSS for that nav item in main.css. Okay. So first is a main navigation. We want to have a padding of maybe 2rem, and we want a display as a flex. So basically a flex is whatever is inside this main navigation, whatever is inside this nav tag, it combines all the elements together as a flex. This is basically what it means. And because we can make it flex, it has certain properties like you can have justify content as center, and it will just center line everything. So you can see this. You can have these properties for this. We can have flex direction as a row. You can have it as a column. So these are certain properties you can apply. So we're gonna go and make it a little better. So we put it as a flex. Now we want all the elements inside the list. So the UL tag inside the list, this UL tag, we want to add some CSS to it. So I want first to the list style type to go. So we'll make it none. Then we'll have no margins. We'll have no margins. We'll have no padding, and we'll have a display flex for everything. A display flex for everything inside, and then again center align the content. Justify content center. So this will even help it to become like this, but there's no gap in between the two links you can see. So what we need is a gap of 2rem maybe. Yep, looks better. Now we don't need anything inside list also. So we have specified a nav item tag to the list. The class names can be called using dot and the ID names using hashtag. So we'll have a dot nav item A. It will be text decoration as none. And we'll have color as it maybe. Yep, looks better. We can have any better color maybe, or let it be white. We can have a hover over it. So to add any hover basically means when I'm putting my mouse over the element, then it should change its color or something, whatever. That's a hover property you can add to this nav item tag. We'll just have a hover, and we'll again name it as when it is active. So when you hover it or when it is active, it will have the same color. We'll have this maybe, no, this is the same as background. So we'll have hashtag FF2973 red maybe. change the color to yellowish. Yep, you can see now that the navigation bar works and it's there on all the pages. Now we can move towards our new page. We'll form something from the survey. So what we can do for the survey is have a simple form. That form will maybe accept some responses and put to the backend, and we'll just have it like a survey form for Remix. Correct? So let's go and have it. Move this. We'll have a main tag. We'll have a remix form actually with a method is equal to post. I'm just thinking what we should do with this. Okay, we need a form definitely. Now we need a form. It's a remix form. The difference between a remix form and a normal form is that remix form doesn't initiate an app reload. It works without reloading the whole page. Like the responses you can collect without reloading the whole page. Put form from remix on React. Now we want maybe a label for HTML4 is equal to mm, make it a title or a name and add it. Let us know your name and then have an input tag attached to it, which basically has a type is equal to text. And we add a name to the input field. So whenever a form submission happens, this is the field it's going to take as an object. So this is a very important field for forms. We'll have a name as a name itself, and we'll have ID also as a name itself. Now we're gonna first we need for any form submission something called as an Axios. So we're gonna go and install it. Axios are basically used to send requests to any APIs that has been running in backend. You can say it as a basically a connector between a web frontend and a backend by sending requests to a backend and basically sending and receiving data through it. Let install. Yep, it got installed. So we're gonna just import Axios over here. Sorry, here's Axios for basically sending data. But I guess we need one more field. We'll have something like maybe something to write for people. Label HTML4 equal to about remix. My tab is not working. What do you think about Remix? Then we can have an input attached to it. Let's build it. I is equal to text. Name is equal to about underscore remix, and ID is equal to about. Correct. Okay, this is basically what we're gonna have in input. Now, right now the form will look way bad because we don't have any CSS to it. Oh, sorry, I did stop running the page to install Axios. Okay, so the server has loaded now. Where were we? We were in the server.jsx. Yeah, so we'll have this done. Actually, about should be a text area rather than an input because we want a little bit quicker input size. So we'll make a text area and we'll have another feature as a row. Rows is equal to maybe 3. Yep, you can see the page has 2 forms, but again, there's no CSS to it. So we're gonna have another CSS for the survey. We've not created it yet. Before creating it, can we have a button to submit all the requests? So inside form itself, we'll have a button. Class name is equal to form actions. And it will be named register survey. Oh, actually, we don't name these as class actions. We'll have another div outside button to add CSS to it. And we are gonna name it as form actions. Right? Similarly, I guess we should have p tags for all the labels over here. We'll have a p tag for this input and a p for this text area. So now the form will look something like an added button over here. But again, I really don't like it. So we'll add some CSS to this button also. So we'll create one new CSS page called as survey.css. And we'll add a tag of node form. So we'll have a hashtag node form. Hello. Did I cut out? Okay, I think it's back now. Really sorry. Node form will have a max width of 30 rem. We'll have some margins to it. We'll add a padding to it. And we'll have border radius of yes, and we'll have separate background color for it. We'll have the color as hashtag D6. I don't remember what D7 anything would have worked, but yeah, making it a little lighter. And we'll have a box shadow property added to it. 8px and a color through RGBA which basically be black, but not black, a little bit black. The point to the two refers to makes it a little lighter than black, but it won't be visible much. So now the whole form should be inside a box. It isn't because I think the ID is kind of correct. Oh, because you've not exported it as a function over here. Rel sheet which reference styles. And I'm gonna import styles. Survey.css. Okay. We are not noting anything, we are connecting information, so it's better we call it a survey form. Then to the labels and inputs and text areas, we need the same CSS, so we'll have a survey form label, commas, survey form input, comma, survey form text area. And we're gonna display it as a block. Again, this is another display feature which will create a block for each of these elements, labels, inputs, and text area. So we learned about flex, which makes everything go together, basically all the elements under those tags. Now this is specifically block for all the elements inside a block, correct? And we'll have a text align as enter. Okay. For some reasons, yep, my bad. It's called as links. Did I make a mistake anywhere? No, my bad. Yeah. So the form looks good. The background is kind of fine, but the input is still not fine. So we'll change the input CSS a little. So we're gonna have a change in the label. We're gonna add a margin bottom to it. 0.8 rem maybe. 0.5 rem is fine. And I'm gonna color all the labels something as a blue, maybe Alice blue, and have a font weight of bold to all the labels. And then survey for input. Not an input, we have a text area as well. Survey form
area, and we'll have this stretched throughout the block which has been created. So to do that, we're gonna add a width of 100%, and we're gonna add a padding, of course, to make it look separated out. 0.5 rem top and bottom, and a 0.25 rem left and right. And we'll have a background color of hashtag 8. I kind of have it noted down right now, so that's why I'm remembering it. But you can always have this feature of code where you can change the colors. You can hover over this color tag and you can have this. You can just shift the pointer to change all the colors. So yeah, we're gonna have no border to the text area. Perfect. So this looks much cleaner. The color alignment is a little bad, but that's because I'm randomly adding colors here and there. So now what we can do is change the button. Maybe button still looks the same. So we've had something called the form actions defined here. So we're gonna add CSS to that now. Okay, it's a class name, so we'll use dot to refer it, and we're gonna text align center first of all. And then we're gonna have form actions for the button inside, and we're gonna just inherit the font from above, add a cursor pointer to it, so when you basically move towards the button, your mouse pointer moves towards the cursor. Then have a simple padding of 0.75 rem top bottom and 2 rem. Just simple HTML properties to make the button look a little bit better. And I have a background color. I don't know how it's gonna look, but we can deal with this. We'll have text color as black. This much is enough, I guess. So now we want to add a hover to it. So we'll have a form actions button hover, have a background color, new background color to it. Maybe this is fine. Yep, looks kind of clean. Okay, so moving forward to how to submit forms here. So I'm going to just run this FastAPI back application, which is the post request is /submit. So I'm going to make a request to that post request. So we run the FastAPI application using Unicorn main app --- reload. App is the FastAPI app I've created. This main is the file name which you're running. The application startup is in 8000. So what we're going to do is go to the survey. This is just a form. Have something as a export async function action. So this is the basically a beauty of Remix, that you can have separate functions for each of the elements. Like now form submission will always link to something called as an action. So if you see a small form tag also, it always requires an action, right? So basically what this remix form does is whenever you have a method as post, it automatically refers to the closest action function it finds. So this request will basically have all the form data. Once the form is submitted, then yeah, so we'll have a const form data is equal to await request dot form data. So since the form data which you receive is a promise, so you always add a await function to it so that you receive the whole form data all at once rather than like getting half the form data at first and then later on. So that will basically cause an error in your application. That's why you should have an await feature. Now this form data is in the form of a promise, which but we only want entries to it, like the entries of about remix and name. Again, remember I told name is the one which will be passed on as an object into the form. So whatever the key of an object will be this name, correct? So what we're going to do is we'll just take entries out of those objects and we'll put it in the backend API, the post request of slash submit, and we're going to use ActJS for it. ActJS is going to send requests to the backend, and form submissions is going to happen completed after that. So we'll have something as a data from form data using object.from entries. This is used for retrieving the data from form data. Now we need a post request through ActJS to http localhost 8000 slash submit and pass a form data with it, correct? Because this is what our backend wants. It wants slash submit and it's running on http. This 127.0.1 refers to localhost 8000 and it wants something as an input. Input is a name and about remix, which you can see a name and an about remix, the same object, right? Correct. And the response it's going to send is just the dictionary of the same object. You can see over here. So we're going to see how that works. So we are sending a post request, having a thing response. We're just going to console.log it, response dot data, and we're going to return it also. Correct. Now, if you want to see what happens when you do a post request, suppose I add some random stuff right now. Really sorry. Oh, the button itself doesn't have a type as submit, so it's not able to take any data. So we'll have a type as a submit attached to a button. I don't think anything else to be wrong here. Right. Form method is post. The name is name field, and here the name is an about remix field. Correct. We are taking the request as a form data. Right. Let's check it once again. Okay. It's happening because it's an unprocessable entry and the form data is returning an empty object. Yeah, the data is an empty object. So let's see where the error is. Try to figure it out. change this for a change. Correct. Don't need the main. Yep, let's see the data we received. Yep, the data we have got. It's basically because it was not able to figure out what the form is. So yep, we'll move back to where we were. Okay, something very weird. It's basically happening because of the backend. I have not configured backend with the front end yet, but yep. So you can see. Okay, it was not because of the backend. It was because of the data we was passing. Never mind. I'm really sorry about the confusion. Yep, you can see that the data has been passed as I've returned here a response. Now, how to look at the data is using something called as a loader. So the whole problem which right now was happening was not any main tag or anything. It was just because I was just passing a form data instead of a data. Form data is just a promise which you saw was an empty. It is just a type of form data. What we wanted just was an entry of the form data. So this is what where the mistake was we're taking. It was not able to process what we are passing over here in the backend. So okay, this is fine. Now what we want is to get all the responses we created in a request from Axios dot get. We'll have http slash local host 8000 slash such a thing. Yep. And then return response. And this basically is a loader. So whenever a page is called, whenever a page is loaded, suppose I load a survey page right now, this is the function which will be first called. So if there's an error in this function, the page itself won't load. So like can see over here, I did not return anything from the function, so it gave an error, and the page itself didn't load. So whatever is passed in the loader shouldn't show an error, otherwise the whole app will go down. So what I've done is taken response from this simple get request from backend and returned it. Now what we want is this response to go into our main page, which is this page, right? So what we're gonna do is just have something called as a data or a response variable here, and we're gonna use something called as a used loader data. This is imported over here. This used loader data is basically used to catch this loader data this we are passing in the page. So you can see how cleanly you can have a form submission separate function, load separate function the same page, and also the CSS separate function. So you can easily write very clean and structured code for each page in the Remix application. If you want to see how the data looks like, it looks like, let's remove this response and reload the page. Ouch. Oh, sorry. I was returning a promise again. Yep. So we can see this is the whole data. That was it. The NAASD which we just defined, the bunch of other stuffs. So basically this response which you get, whatever response you get from an Axios is always in the form of headers and all the basically the socket connection which happens between the Axios and the backend. It contains all the information as you saw over here. the requests made, the status code, and everything. So we don't need all of that. We just need this data part of it, right? So that's what I was missing over here. And once I return data, this data has gone to the page and having consoling wrong inside the page. So now suppose you want to display the data also, you can just have maybe just move this whole thing to a separate component, new file as survey form JSX, and move this whole part over here. Import the form. Yep. And then all you need to do is, instead of all this code, just write something called as a survey form, right? Basically gives the same thing out, correct? So now we want this response to go into a new page. We'll have a new page called as response list.jsx. We'll again have a default function called response list, and we're going to take a response over here, correct? Is an object. So what we're going to do is we're going to return something called as a UL, list of responses. Inside a UL, we're going to map all the responses, because response is basically a list, right? So what we're going to do is get each responses and put it inside a list, inside a this HTML tag list, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to map it. We're going to take a response out of each map and provide an index to it. I'm going to declare an arrow function in which we'll have an li key, li tag, and we want to display the name, basically, right? I'm missing, yes. Go back. Something wrong with the package. Let's rewrite this. So we have response, we are mapping it, object is res, this is index, correct? Now we want this to be a function, and we want this to return a p tag with res.name. So here you can see res is each of this object, correct? What we want is just the name of this object, right? So we're just going to return this name, and this response list will call in a survey.jsx. We'll just have a return of survey form and response list responses equal to response. What we are doing is we are passing this response data. Also, this has to be inside a single JSX element, as I told earlier. Whatever is inside a return should be inside a single JSX, correct? And the response list hasn't been imported. Yep, that's all. So we're passing the responses, actually not named responses, it's a response. and you can, I think there's no CSS applied to it or something, or I have equal to, very important. Right. So what we have been doing is we have been passing the loaded data, the response data over here, correct? Then this response list is basically something like a list over here, which is being passed. Now we're going to map through each list and display just the name of it, correct? So and sorry, what did I open? Should I add a CSS to it to maybe? We'll have something like a CSS response this.css. And we're gonna add class names and stuff over here. ID is equal to response. Class name is equal to response. That's all. And we're gonna create a CSS. The response list. Hashtag response. If X direction is row, align items to the center. Specify content also as a center. Hashtag response tag needs to have a color of black maybe. You can reload the app and check once.
Hey, yeah. Uh, was that junior or having okay, he was good. Yeah.
response list. Out underscore remix. We are doing some weird error again, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how the data should be displayed using a response list. So we're gonna end it on a note that we're getting all the data inside a list of responses over here, and this is basically getting printed from inside the client side, and this is being passed to a component called as response list. This response list is taking all the responses, and it is returning as a each response name as a res.name, and basically mapping through this list and getting each response's name and returning it, right? So yep, definitely something weird going on here, but we're gonna end it as a note as we configured out how to go through routes in Remix, how to create components and import in Remix, how to create a simple get and post request, and yep, that's basically most of Remix. And front end simple codes, creating CSS, and doing form submissions and retrieving data. That's all from my side. Any issues in the workshop, you can have a discussion on the Instagram page and on the day of the event itself. Thanks a lot for joining and listening. I'll take leave.